What's up, folks? This is Antonio Fletcher back with you once again. This is going to be another edition of the Lifeline. This is the number 11th episode. It's going to be welcoming all pro-choice challengers number 2. The purpose of this show is to equip pro-lifers in dealing with arguments with the pro-choice position. I call it the pro-abortion position because I don't see all choices are equal, and I don't see the abortion position as a choice-worthy position, especially when it robs another life. So I see it as the pro-abortion position, but others call it the pro-choice position. But I mean, you can call it what you want. You still taking an innocent human being's life, and we debate issues like that very thing on the show. I believe that abortion is one of the most sick evils, if not the most sick evils in our time. And I mean, you really don't get much worse than killing your own innocent children. You don't really get much more sick than having it legal to kill off the next generation, the weakest among you, the least of these. It doesn't get much worse than that. And we tackle some of the toughest questions that may be brought to the pro-lifer and how to deal with them soundly. And we just bring all typical pro-choice positions up to scrutiny, and we show that none of them stand up to the truth that when you're dealing with the human being in the womb, its life should be respected from natural conception to natural death. There is no reason to justify the intentional killing, deliberate, of the unborn human being. Humanity is very, very important. It is the single most important reason why our lives should be protected. We all should have the right not to be killed simply because of our nature of being human, and nothing should go beyond that. You have all sorts of arguments that are given to go much beyond that. Now, arguments like, let's say, the unborn is just a clump of cells, or the unborn is not really human. The unborn is not even a person, or some people have even gone beyond that to even grant all that it's a human, it's a person, but it still doesn't deserve any rights, or that doesn't mean it's entitled to any rights, or at least not at least like the right, not the right to the mother's body. We tackle all these issues here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the link out in the chat, and I'm going to open the link to the general public, and we can see if we can have a good discussion going tonight. So give me just a second here. There's a link there, and then I'm going to shoot this link out to the general public in the G Plus community. There we go. So if you want to come in and you claim to be pro-choice, you can get the debate started. So it looks like our first taker here is John Sabat, assuming he's a pro-choicer.
Yeah.
And it looks like he is, according to the comment that he left here right now. So I would ask you this. why do you hold the pro-choice position or whatever you want to call your position?
Because I'm a man, and I believe this should be up to women to decide this issue. I don't think a bunch of men talking around telling women what to do with their bodies are important. Oh, sorry. I don't think men should be the ones who determine this issue. And it's like when Congress, they had a group set up in Congress to debate abortion, and it was all men on their panel to talk about Planned Parenthood. I thought that was completely absurd. It's not a man's issue.
Okay, so basically you're saying that women should only talk about it. Like, was it wrong for non-men on the Supreme Court to talk about it and pass it into law?
Well, the Supreme Court, whatever makeup was there, if the law came in front of it, they would have to decide that. Yes, I mean, that's okay. It wasn't wrong because they are the authority. The problem was there weren't enough women on the Supreme Court. Now there are.
Well, from what I can understand, there were no women on the Supreme Court at that time. In 1973, right, here in the United States, when it was legally ruled into law. But I mean, if you're going to say that no men should have talked about it or should have spoken about it, then Roe v. Wade should be thrown out by the logic you just gave.
No, that's non sequitur.
No, it's not. I mean, either men can talk about it or they can't. You got to have it one way or the other.
Well, if you have a male judge, whenever the case comes up before the judge, that's what has to be decided. It's not like these judges just sit around and say, hey, let's talk about a woman's right to choose. You know, the case came up, but that was their job to do that. This is different than, you know, I've seen some of these anti-abortion hangouts that you have. I'm not criticizing you, but I've seen it where it's all men sitting around talking about how awful it is that women have abortions. I think it's kind of absurd. But in your favor, I do want to say I enjoyed the hangout with Steve the other night. I rediscovered you. I thought you'd blocked me a while back. And when Steve switched over to your room, again, you were very fair. And I really enjoyed that. And that's how I came to see your link this time. You do hold a very fair hangout.
I try to, but I appreciate the compliments. But anyway, so should men run for office if the potentiality is that the issue of abortion might come up? Because here's the thing, you're going to have the issue come up with the politicians. So that means that men are going to be forced to deal with the issue at some point. So if it's even possible that the issue should come up, should men run for office?
Usually Democrats are in favor of abortion. It's Republicans that are against it. But the problem is these same Republicans that are anti-abortion are not willing to give out food stamps and welfare to the mothers that can't afford to have these children. So they're going to make the women have the children and force them to carry through this abortion or carry through this baby to term. And then they're going to cut their food stamps and welfare and say that they're lazy. You know, you can't have it both ways. If you eliminated abortion right now, then you're going to really drastically increase the welfare rolls. So you can't say, well, I'm against welfare and against abortion. You know, you're going to have to do one or the other.
I didn't ask you about welfare and food stamps and whatnot, man. What I asked you about was should men run for office if the possibility is the abortion issue could come up? Because if men can't talk about it, if women should only be talking about it, then it would seem like men would have to avoid office if it potentially could come up.
Well, you're dealing with two different issues here. I mean, running for office is one thing. They deal with a lot of different issues. It's not like a group of guys sitting around and talking about how awful abortion is. You know, these are women's issues. Let women decide this thing. I mean, it's not our thing to get in there. I'm not going to tell any woman what to do with her own body, and I don't think any man should. I believe that women should decide this, and it's already been decided. Actually, I mean, there is no debate.
Okay, so should we rearrange our entire legal system so only women in office talk about the issue and rule on it?
No, there is no legal system that needs arranging. It was legalized back in like 1972, and it's still legal. There's, you know, what's the point? There's no need.
Okay, but men is talking about it. That's the whole point, dude.
Yeah.
Do you think men should be able to talk about it or not?
I think lawmakers have to do it. Well, it's different than a group of guys sitting around talking about women's issues. and being self-righteous. It's like when a bunch of rich people sit around and talk about how the poor are lazy. Well, they don't know what it's like to be poor. So how can you address an issue that deals with a woman? Let me tell you where my position comes from. This is the case.
Could you mute yourself, Emmanuel? There's a lot of background noise, man.
Okay, I know a woman personally. This is true story. She had a baby, or she was carrying a baby, and the doctor said it had no brain. There was no brain in it at all. And she went to get an abortion, and they wouldn't let her have one. And she had to carry this dead baby, brainless baby, to term. And then when it was born, it died. Once it was cut off from the umbilical cord. Why should she have been forced to carry a brainless corpse inside her body for 9 months just because some man says so?
Okay, but you're not really dealing with the issue here, man. We're talking about.
I am. I'm telling you a real life story, an example of what happens. This is why this should be up to the woman and her doctor. This is a medical issue. It's not a law and order issue where you think it should be a crime and arrest people and put people in jail and put doctors in jail. It's a medical issue between someone and their physician. It's none of our business to determine this. It's up to the person and her physician.
Well, look, man, you were sitting here talking about how men kind of have to rule on the issue if there are men in the public square. They kind of have to do so. So basically, you're telling me that it's okay for the people who actually are involved in the laws that can directly alter your life to talk about it. But if someone like me, who is just like a voter, like I don't have any direct influence on the laws other than people who I vote to represent me. So I can't influence your life in any direct way beyond the people I vote for to represent me. But the people who are actually in office, voting and passing and legislating and whatnot, the people who have direct influence on your life, they can talk about it, but people like me cannot.
No, I apologize. You do have the right to talk about it. I take that back. I just feel like it should be more of a women's issue. It's like people who are anti-gay spend all their time railing against gays, and I don't really get it. And it's the same thing. But I mean, you're free to talk about anything you want. I talk about aliens and psychics and UFOs and all kinds of stuff. So, I just think, like, my opinion is that it's a woman's issue, and it's. And then you got the cases of rape and incest, and a lot of it's financial. I dated a girl, and she'd been molested by her dad her whole life, and she went to college, and like her first week of college, she got drunk at a sorority party, and a guy took her in a back room while she was semi-passed out and got her pregnant, and she knew that if she carried this baby to term, she would have to go back to the hills and get raped by her dad again, and her choice was to either get abortion or not, and I don't believe people should be out there holding signs and protesting against her if that's her choice. A lot of these issues are complex. It's something that it's on a case-by-case basis. I don't think there's any blanket claim against it that you can make.
But here's the thing, man. This issue is being spoken about as if it only affects women, and it affects men too. You think there aren't any men out there who don't like the fact that their offspring was taken away from them? So many men have had the chance to be fathers literally snatched away from them because of this legal evil. And do they not matter?
Yeah, it depends on if they're married. Yes, maybe that would be a different situation. Maybe the man's input would have something to do with that. But if they're not married, then the woman's going to have to deal with this on her own. Then it's up to her.
So basically, just because the woman carries the child, she can kill their kid that biologically belongs to both of them.
Yeah, that would be her determination. And, using the term killing her kid is a little bit sensationalist, but sure.
Sensationalist. I mean, that's just the bottom line. They're not, the idea ain't for the unborn offspring to be alive with the abortion procedure. That's the whole point, to make sure there is nothing living there. What do you think what do you think it is? Is it about throwing a birthday party? Of course the idea is for a dead entity.
Well, it's not the word killing that I object to. It's the word kid that I object to. When you're talking about a first term thing, you know, you're not talking about a kid at that point. But look, I heard Gus last night, and he made some pretty good points about that. He said to go ahead and grant that it's a human, and I'll do that, you know, for the sake of conversation. But I do believe there is a difference. I mean, like, nobody's taking an actual living baby out and sacrificing it to something. I mean, you're talking about something that's part of her body growing inside her. And I'm against abortions at late, you know, in the third trimester too, at a point where they're capable of surviving on their own. I am against it, you know, except for certain circumstances. But I do believe that should be more a medical issue than a law and order criminal issue.
All right, so when does a child exist?
I think at the time that it can survive on its own outside the womb.
Oh, okay, so all right, here's the thing about that. The established medical definition, because if you're talking about when the child can survive outside the womb, then you'll be talking about something called viability. Basically, the established medical period of viability right now is 24 weeks. Now, there was a documented case of a child that was born at 21 weeks, 6 days. So even before the 24-week period, you have someone born prematurely at 21 weeks, 6 days who survived and who is still alive today. Now, you may have those who are viable before 24 weeks, or you may have situations to where you'll have those born prematurely, let's say 26 weeks, who are not viable until maybe, I don't know, the 27th or 28th week in gestation. So when you use viability for your criteria, you risk the chance of killing a viable human being before the 24-week period.
But we both agree that first trimester abortions are not killing a viable offspring, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But here's the thing. So are you going? Wait a second. You can't. Are you just going to not deal with the fact that your viable criteria is troubling? Because I just showed you a problem with your position, and then you went straight to first trimester.
Well, wait. I'm saying that viability is a pretty good option. I say third trimester is a good safe bet. You know, no abortion in third trimester. You know, first trimester is absolutely legal. Second, gray area, maybe let's discuss it.
But I'm trying to ask you when a child exists, and I showed you a problem with your position on viability. Then you went straight to the first trimester. We still haven't dealt with your. Wait. I'm not done. Let me finish. We still haven't established when you believe a child exists, because your viability criteria is self-refuting, sir.
I said third trimester, no. First trimester, yes. Second trimester, maybe. Now, you pointed out that viability occurs somewhere within the second trimester. I think we're both in agreement there.
Yes, I'm going by the established medical viability standard of 24 weeks. I was just simply pointing to that standard to show that some may be viable before then, or some may not be viable until maybe some weeks after that. Each unborn gestation is different. So the fact that unborns develop differently, and some may be viable sooner than others and others later than others, you can't use that as a standard.
Well, the first trimester, we both agree that they're not viable within the first 12 weeks.
Okay,
so that's yes. Like I said, they are viable during the third trimester. We know that. So that would be a no. And then the second area, the second trimester, is a gray area. What's wrong with that? I think we're in agreement.
But here's the thing. Why would you go ahead and jump to the first trimester when we haven't even dealt with the fact that your position is obviously contradictory in what we were just talking about? You just jumped to, well, it's not.
Antonio, you're trying to badger. Come on, man. I'm telling you, I'm giving you a very reasonable position here. You know, I said first, yes, abortion should be available. Third, no. They should not be available. Second, it's a gray area decided on an individual case-by-case basis. What's wrong with that? Why do you try to badger me about the word viability when I'm giving you a very good explanation of what I'm saying?
Because we're trying to find out when a child exists. And once I expose the problem in your position, you immediately move to the first trimester. When you're not really dealing with when a child exists at all, sir.
I told you what my position was. You're trying to badger and think that this is going to...
No, I'm not.
Something, and it's not.
I'm not badgering you at all. What I'm saying is,
I showed you
wait, I'm not done. I showed you a problem with your position. You immediately moved to the first trimester. We're trying to find out when a child exists.
Okay. I guess I'll just restate that they are viable in the third trimester. They become viable somewhere in the second. So that would be on a case-by-case basis. I mean, if you have to make a law about this, like I said, I would say all abortions should be legal in the first trimester. No abortion except for in case of the example I gave you where the woman was forced to carry to full term a baby without a brain. And this is somebody I know personally in my life. So she should not have been forced to carry this corpse within her body. The only reason it was alive was because of the umbilical cord. Once that was cut, it died. It did not have a brain in its head. But yet this woman was...
Hold on a second. I'm getting a call. I'm sorry, man. Just hold on. Just tight.
Hello? Who's the other guy in the room? Hi there. He's giving me a very judging stare.
Sorry about that. I appreciate your patience. I had to take that.
Yes.
All right, but anyway, let's. I want to take this into a slightly different direction. Okay, so where can I put this? Here's the reason why I don't think it should, be a woman's choice because here's the thing. Um, we talk about this issue as if a woman didn't have options before. I mean, there's a million different types of birth control and all this other stuff. So she has options beforehand, but like once you have conception in the womb, that choice has already been made. And I just don't think the child should have to pay the price for that. So I don't think all choices are equal. So I don't see how you can call something like killing your own offspring a choice. Not all choices are the same.
Okay, well, I'm familiar with girls who began having their periods at 9 years of age. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you can have to deal with that reality. Now, suppose a 9-year-old gets pregnant. Where are you
Mm-hmm.
on that?
Well, here's the thing. Talk about like pregnant in a number of different ways. Maybe she was just curious with another person, and whatever happened, or she got raped, or what do you mean?
Yeah, well, I doubt a 9-year-old's in a position to give consent to this. And even if
Mm-hmm.
she did, it was no form of consent. I mean, suppose you had a 9-year-old child and she got pregnant. Would you make her carry that term? And is she ready to be a mother?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think it would be a very, very tough emotional thing to say that she should have to carry that baby, but I don't see it as a very sound intellectual argument. And the reason why I say that is because I don't think emotionally challenging circumstances should take precedence over logic and reason. I don't think just because something is emotionally difficult that means we should basically take the life of a child. So instead, what we can do is we can have proper support and proper professionals helping her along in the situation. It's not that we're just simply saying, "Oh, we got a 9-year-old that's pregnant." No, we're having people who are by her side every step of the way to offer support and love and to make sure she gets through that ordeal in the most loving and safe way possible. So you don't have to take another life out just to have some sort of emotional point of, I guess, a lot of people would think it's an injustice for that girl to go through that pregnancy at that age. But I mean, you can't say that two wrongs make a right. You can't take a life because you personally feel it would be an injustice for her to go through that. There's a better answer than that because here's the thing: you could. I think it's much better for her to go through that and the child not be killed, and she have a chance to form a loving relationship with that child, than to have that child killed and then she not really understand what's going on, and then potentially regret that later on in her life because she was too young to really understand the implications of her choice. I don't think you should be able to put a burden on that on someone so young. I think if you kill the kid, the burden is much, much worse potentially than her carrying the child.
Then you get back into the issue of viability. I mean, suppose it's within the first 4 weeks. Let's say it's a 9-year-old girl and her 12-year-old cousin. And it's within the first 4 weeks. There's no viability possible. Now, why would you force her to go through 9 months of that? And then she won't be able to go to school. I mean, you know that, right? She'll get kicked out of school. You can't have them going pregnant to school.
So there's these emotionally loaded terms like force her to go through it as if they're trying to make it seem like that her going through that is being treated like rape or something like that. And I don't agree with that characterization of the issue.
Well, all having sex with any time that is considered rape. It's statutory rape if there's an underage child involved.
Doesn't mean that you abort the baby, though.
Right. So you're gonna say that if they don't make the decision to kill another human life, another life, if they don't make this decision to have that human life killed from inside her body, then it's statutory rape. That's your argument?
No, not at all. That's not what I said.
Well, if the alternative is that she carried a pregnancy, then why are you talking about statutory rape? I'm not sure if I misunderstood what you meant or what you.
The example I used is when a 9-year-old, let's say she was made pregnant by a 20-year-old, okay? That would be considered rape, correct?
Yes.
And if it's in the first 4 weeks, see, now you said I'm using emotionally loaded terms, but I think killing your child, that's an emotionally loaded term.
Oh, no, it's not.
Especially when you're talking about a first trimester. I mean, we both agree that during the first trimester there was no viability. So it's not considered a child at the first trimester.
But you still haven't even proven that survivability is what defines a child. We was trying to get that straight earlier. You just moved it to the first trimester, but who says that survivability dictates the inherent essence to define whether that's a child or not? Who says viability should be the standard, other than your personal opinion?
No, I'm giving you real-life cases. It's not black and white. It's not so simplistic as you're saying. You know, I gave you the example of a woman who was forced to carry a brainless corpse to full term. I gave you the example of a girl who had been raped by her father, and then she had a choice of either, and then she was raped again while passed out on her first week in college, and she had a choice of carrying this to term and having to move back in with her abusive father or getting an abortion, and she chose the abortion. She went on to have a successful career. Now she's got other children, and she's quite happy, and she doesn't feel any regret or anything. And like I said, it's a woman's issue to decide. It should be between her and her doctor. It's not like, and in those cases, the man was not involved. There was no man protesting. Now, like you said, if there's a man wanting this baby or something, disputing it, then that may be a separate idea. But, you know, like I say, during the first trimester, it's up to a woman. During the third trimester, it should be illegal unless it's a special circumstance. And in the second, it's a gray area.
You're talking about this should be this and should be that. Where are you getting these standards from other than you pass them off as standards that should be? They're just vague question standards. I mean, some people think it should matter for the mother to have the choice during the entire 9 months. So why should we listen to your standard of she shouldn't have it at the third trimester as opposed to those who say she should have it at the third trimester? Why should we listen to you over them?
Oh, why should anybody listen to you? I mean, it's that we're just discussing this issue. And, you know, at first I said I think a room full of men sitting around talking about this issue is kind of laughable. First, you should have some women in here to hear their opinion. They're the ones that have to deal with this, and it's easy to make judgments on people that you don't have to deal with. Well, you know,
if any women are listening,
you don't have to deal with this problem, so you don't know what they go through. So, and I don't. I never had to face it, and so it's not up to me to make these decisions. I think that women should have a much more of a voice in this than we do. Now, if you're married and your wife is deciding to abort a baby that's yours within the framework of marriage or something, maybe you have claims, legal or whatever. But, you know, if you're just dating somebody and you get them pregnant, it's, you know, it's still up to the woman.
Well, that's a ludicrous argument, Seth, because here's the thing. A woman would never have to deal with the possibility that the killing of her child is in the hands of someone else. So the woman would never have to deal with that. So the fact of what the woman would never have to deal with is not an argument. You're saying a man would never have to deal with carrying a child, while a woman would never have to deal with the killing of her child in someone else's hands. So you can't just use this argument of, well, this person ain't gonna never have to deal with that. Well, a woman ain't gonna never have to deal with the fact that she has no legal protections for her own offspring. She won't have to deal with that. She can have legal protections for her offspring in the womb if she desires. And she's going to have those sorts of protections outside the womb when the child is born. She ain't going to never have to deal with the possibility that there's going to be a time to where she has absolutely no legal defenses like a man does. So you can't just be like, well, you're going to never have to deal with this, when you could apply that logic in the reverse.
Well, and you know, when you talk about legality, actually, that's what this argument is, legal. So you're talking about criminalizing a group of people. How much jail time should a woman spend if she has an abortion? Right? Because you're not going to, not just abortion, it's the morning after pill. I mean, what about the Plan B? Are you against that as well?
Well, I'm not against contraception, which does not act in abortive. I think it's pronounced abortifacient or abortifacient, something like that. If it doesn't cause the killing of the unborn, then I don't really care what sort of contraception she uses. But the main issue here is if we know there's a child in the womb, then I don't think anybody should be able to decide that. And just because she's a woman carrying a child should not mean anything, because nobody gives. I mean, there are certain laws that won't even give her a choice to have the child killed inside her womb. Certain states will outright forbid it in the third trimester. They don't be like, well, she's a woman, so she should be able to decide whether the unborn lives or dies. So it's not necessarily about her being a woman that she get to make that decision, because people are going to, who make the laws and whatnot, are going to have their own standards, and when they think she should be able to have that decision or not. So it's ultimately what they say and what they allow her to have, not about her having the decision. Because if they say that she should not have the decision to kill that child in the first trimester, then she ain't going to have it. Just like they say she ain't going to have the decision to kill in the third trimester, she ain't going to have it.
Well, let's look at this historically. Now, you're talking about the legal areas of it now. Before they made abortion legal, there were plenty of abortions occurring. They were back alley abortions performed by people who kind of picked it up, and they would use coat hangers and stuff like that, or they would drink certain things like bleach to cause spontaneous abortion. Going back through history, women have always known how to do this. Even the Egyptians wrote about there were certain herbs that a woman could eat that would induce a spontaneous abortion. Going back to the Romans, they knew what to take that would cause an abortion. Going back probably to the days of the cavemen, I would say that they probably knew what plants would cause abortion. So it's always been a choice. Now you're talking about, well, we need to make this illegal, and once you make it illegal, you know that it's still going to occur. It's not that everybody's going to say, oh, well, it's illegal, I guess we got to stop now. There's going to be doctors that do it on the side. There's going to be people do it on the side, and there's even pills now that you can get that's called the abortion pill, that you can take it and it will produce an abortion. You don't have to go into a doctor's office and physically get an abortion. You can order these pills over the internet. So once you say it's illegal, now you're going to create a whole new class of criminals. So you're talking about putting people in jail, not only jailing doctors, but you're talking about jailing women, because if they order this pill over the internet and they induce a spontaneous abortion, you're talking about arresting them and putting them in prison for murder, right?
Now, two things. Number one, you alluded to the fact that abortion goes back thousands of years in the past. Yeah, that's true, but you know what? So does rape. Number one, so that's not an argument. And number two, all you're doing is saying you're appealing to consequence. You're saying that if a woman gets put in jail because she used a pill to, okay, he dropped out. Let's see if he comes back in a sec. But he had two problems. Number one, saying that abortion goes thousands of years in the past, but so does rape. Okay, that's not an argument. Number two, if a woman takes a pill and she has to go to prison because that pill caused the killing of her child, then the fact that she goes to prison, it doesn't matter how you kill your child, through the surgical abortion or through the pill, you still killed your child. And if you don't like that, then that's not an argument. At best, you could say, well, I don't like the fact that she has to go to prison for killing her child with a pill, but that's not an argument. All he was doing was appealing to consequence. An appeal to consequence is not an argument. It's a logical fallacy. So you can't sit up here and appeal to the consequences of things you don't like to make your position. You got to justify your position on the merits of your own position, not saying you don't like the fact that women would go to jail for using a pill to kill her unborn. That's you can't argue your position like that. This is the type of stuff that pro-choicers do all the time. They like to appeal to all these emotional cases, and they like to use emotion over logic. It doesn't work. At the end of the day, you're still dealing with a human being that deserves the dignity to have the right not to be killed. And no argument justifies it. I don't care who you are. None. So did you have anything you wanted to say on this, either G-Man or Emmanuel? Okay, here we go. He's back.
I'm back. I got
I'm just
cut off. I'm sorry.
It's all good, man. What was you about to say, Emmanuel?
I'm just listening in from work right now.
Oh, okay. All right, my bad. But okay, I'm just gonna go over what I said earlier. I said there's two issues. Like number one, you alluded to the fact that abortion goes back years in the past. But yet, you know what? So what? There are cultures who have like participated in rape and all this other stuff, but that doesn't mean anything. That was the first issue. And number two, all you were really doing is appealing to consequence. Let's say you brought up the fact that women may be prosecuted for using a pill to kill the unborn, to terminate the unborn. But all that would be is you not liking that, appealing to consequence. So because you may not like that, because that may be a law, does not mean anything for whether your position is justified or not. So you don't have to like that idea, but that doesn't justify anything.
Well, I mean, if you just want to talk about the philosophy of abortion, I agree. But if you want to talk about in reality and in practice, what I'm telling you is if it were to be made illegal, first you're going to have a huge increase in the welfare rolls. You're going to have a huge increase in the number of abused children. You're going to have a huge increase in the number of children that are going to be taken away from these parents and put into the foster home system. And you're going to have a huge increase in criminals, where you're going to have to criminalize this. There's going to have to be some punishments. And by your saying that it's murder, then it's going to have to be a murder charge. It's not just going to be a lesser charge. Otherwise, you wouldn't be consistent. So what I'm saying is you're going to have to, let's talk about what you're actually talking about. I mean, if you just want to say that abortion's bad, well, okay, well, that's fine if you want to say that. But if you want to talk about doing this in practice, in reality, the thing I said is it's always gone on through history, and just because you say it's illegal doesn't mean it's going to stop. I wasn't appealing to the past of saying, oh, yeah, abortion's great because the Egyptians did it. I was saying the fact is that it's always been done. There's always herbs you can take to induce abortion. And like I said, now somebody can order the abortion pills from China or wherever straight off the internet, and they take one pill and it produces spontaneous abortion. So now you're going to have to talk about what are the punishment, what are the penalties, and it seems like with this view that it's murder, you're going to have to talk about a murder charge for all these people. So first you're going to have a vast increase of law enforcement, you're going to have bigger government, more laws, more policing, more people in the prison system. You're going to have to take if you force women to have children that they can't afford to have, or they're not, if they're crackheads or whatever, they're going to have these babies, which are going to be put into the foster care system. They're also going to need welfare and food stamps and all this other assistance to pay for it. Because if the woman can't make the decision that she cannot afford to raise a child, and a man is making that decision for her, then you're going to have to deal with these consequences. And that's what I'm talking about. Is it better to leave this in the hands of the doctors and the patients right now, or let's create a new class of criminals like you're talking about doing? I mean, you're talking about filling our prisons with women charged with murder, and these are often young girls, I mean, most girls that have abortions are under their 30s. So you're talking about cramming our prison system full of all these women for on murder charges. And look at what this is going to cost the system. I mean,
Don, do you think the murder of anybody is wrong?
Hold on, Spitfire. I just want to point out something real quick. What you're doing right here is not only are you appealing to consequence to argue your position, you're committing an egregious slippery slope fallacy. You're saying that if we do things like this on a legal level, this will lead to all this sort of issues with welfare and food stamps, and this would lead to these sorts of problems legally and so on and so forth. You sort of like taking a snowball, rolling down a hill, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as it rolls down the hill. Sort of like a slippery slope argument. Like it starts off small and gets bigger. all you did was commit a slippery slope fallacy, sir. That doesn't do anything for your position. Because I think we can have these issues fleshed out legally, but just because it may be difficult does not mean we should not protect the life of the unborn, just because the legal issues may either be difficult to flesh out potentially, or they might be inconvenience. They might seem uncomfortable to us to flesh these issues out. And you say that that making abortion illegal ain't gonna stop it. Well, you know what? Rape is legal too. Rape is illegal, but it doesn't stop rape. But that doesn't mean we should make it legal.
And and what you're doing is attacking me every time instead of the issues I'm bringing up. I'll bring up an issue and you say, well, you're doing this, and I bring up another issue and it's you're doing this. I'm saying everybody on your side always worries about the messenger while ignoring the message.
Wait a minute. How did I not deal with your position?
Let me stop.
Sorry, but how is that?
Wait.
Wait.
Yeah,
I don't like the treatment I'm getting here.
Look, he's right. You're right.
Stick around. Wrap this up.
Look, you're right. You're right. You should get to finish. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
Okay, so like I said, I knew personally a lady that had a baby inside of her without a brain. It had a 0% chance of living, yet she was not able to get an abortion, and she had to carry this corpse to full term that immediately died as soon as they cut the umbilical cord. That was unfair to her. Another point I made is that a room full of men talking about women's issues are kind of absurd, and it's offensive to women. I believe that this should be mainly women talking about this issue. Another point I brought up is that this has always been done throughout history, and it will continue to be done. So you're going to create a new class of criminals. You're going to expand a welfare system. You're going to have a lot of children born that are going to be born into insufficient households. They're going to have to be taken away and put into foster care systems. They're going to be born to crackheads and heroin addicts and people who would normally get an abortion. And as I believe, you're talking about the living baby and murdering your child. I don't believe a first trimester fetus is a baby. I don't believe it's a human. It's not capable of living on its own. Now, third trimester, I said abortion should be illegal unless it's special circumstance. First trimester, abortion should be totally legal. And second trimester, it should be a gray area where they get to discuss that, and it should be an issue between a woman and her doctor. But other than that, that's just how I feel. I don't know much else to say about it, so I'll just kind of leave it there and let you all go at it from there. But that's just my 2 cents. And thank you, Antonio. I really appreciate it. You're a very fair guy, and invite me to your hangouts. I'm not trying to make enemies or anything. Just discuss the issue. Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. Are you gonna take off or just listen in?
I'll listen in.
Okay.
I can make room if you need room for people to come in.
No, you don't have to go anywhere, man. It's all good. But just real quick, man, I just want to address the what you said earlier. I mean, you said a lot there in that last bit, but you also was talking about how I'm just kind of attacking the messenger. I don't think so, man. I think what I was doing was looking at your position and showing why it was logically fallacious. I didn't mean in any way to seem like I was attacking you as a person. I was just kind of showing that, like, man, you can't just use all these things about, well, this is going to lead to all these welfare problems, and this is going to lead to, it's not going to really stop abortions from happening and all this other stuff. I was just kind of saying that, like, you're making a slippery slope fallacy instead of really addressing the important issue. Is should abortion be morally permissible or not? That's the real important issue. Now, all the legal issues and all the other stuff can be fleshed out. But even if you are correct about all that stuff happening, that would not in and of itself mean that it's should be moral to have the unborn legally be able to be killed. Even if you were correct about everything you were saying, that does not necessitate that it's okay to kill the unborn in the womb.
Correct. Yeah, you weren't attacking me. I appreciate it. I know that. It's just, it seems to be a real emotional issue for you. It's not for me. I've never had to face it. And, I've got a daughter, and I'm really glad we had her, and I can understand. I love children as well. But then again, like that girl I told you that she'd been sexually abused by her father her whole life. She couldn't wait until she got old enough to go to college to get out of that abusive household. And the first week she got to college, she got drunk at a party and passed out, and a guy raped her, and then she got pregnant. So she was facing...
Yeah, but here we go again. Like, whose fault is that, though? You don't just go to a party and don't expect that to happen. You have to deal with the consequences, bro. That's just avoiding the punishment, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, you have a desire to punish people and stuff, but the courts don't see it that way, and abortion's not going to be made illegal. That's
Are you
beyond...
serious that the courts don't have a desire to punish people? You know how many people get punished even unjustly by the courts? You just realize what you just said.
Of course, yeah. But, you remember, you're talking about putting a bunch of young girls into prison for murder, right? I mean, you know that.
They're murdering a person. They're murdering a little kid. Basically, the person's not even developed yet. It's still a person.
Well, I think that's an unreasonable position, and, as a man, I don't feel...
So you think it's okay to kill a baby?
Wait, Spitfire, let him finish. Go ahead.
And as a man, I don't think it's up to us to decide that. Let's not try to dominate. You want to hold down gays and hold down women and hold down these people. Let's let people live their own lives and worry about things that affect you.
Well, be careful, man. Hold on.
No, this is the point, though. The thing is, people think it doesn't affect us, but then after a while it starts to. Like, it slowly creeps in. It's like what Antonio was saying with the whole slippery slope fallacy. I'm surprised you can't see that, but I guess some people just can't until it's pointed out to them.
And just be careful not to poison the well here.
You're doing a slippery slope fallacy when you say that a fetus, a 4-week-old fetus, is a baby. That's a slippery slope fallacy right there.
No. Let me explain to you.
If you think it's all a lie, that's insane.
Let me explain to you why that's not.
I can't hear what he's saying. His sound is really bad.
Well, let me explain to you real quick why that's not a slippery slope fallacy, because we're not saying the slippery slope fallacy is saying it's a causal fallacy, basically. It's making a false cause of one event leading to another. Now, just making the conclusion that the unborn is a child, a human being, or whatever you want to say, how does making such a conclusion mean it's a slippery slope fallacy? No, we're just describing the condition of the unborn. That has nothing to do with a slippery slope fallacy, man.
Well, he's saying this.
I got a comment I'd like to make if you guys don't mind.
Sure. Go ahead, G-Man.
Yeah, I had this conversation in Nadia's room yesterday. And somebody in there, I think her name was Brenda, was trying to suggest that a fetus isn't really a baby. It's not something that's conscious. It's a conscious, trying to make the argument that because it was a conscious, that it doesn't have the right to live. But I challenged her on the idea that if you didn't believe that the fetus was a baby, then obviously she's saying that she doesn't believe that the baby is human. So what she's actually sitting there saying is, or trying to suggest that human beings can actually give birth to something, not give birth, but get pregnant or create something in their bodies that are not human. So,
well,
the evidence. Where's the evidence that this fetus is not a human being? It's not a baby. Where's the evidence for that?
That's right.
As I told Antonio in the beginning, I heard Gus's position. He said, "Let's go ahead and in order to debate this," and I've done that. But even when you're at the position, like I said, well, what if a 9-year-old girl is 4 weeks? So you're talking about an embryo, basically, at 4 weeks. And you're still willing to call that a baby and a human? I just think you have to put some realism into this as well.
Okay. When does a woman become pregnant? Is it after 4 weeks of her eggs being fertilized? When is a woman officially pregnant?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, this is a woman's issue. It's not I just think that even a room full of men talking about a woman's issue is offensive to women.
It's your issue too. You see, she's carrying an egg and you're carrying a sperm. Until your sperm hits the egg, that egg doesn't get pregnant or whatever, right? It can't turn into a baby sometime in the future. So let me ask you something. You're involved with a woman, right? You get her pregnant. Are you sitting here as a man telling me that if she decides to have an abortion, that she has a right to do that without talking to you about it first?
We went through this earlier, and what I told him, I said, if you're married to her and she's your wife and you're going to produce a child together, the man may have a say in it. I believe if you're not married, then it's up to the woman because she's the one who's going to have to bear the responsibility of that.
Wait a minute. Are you married?
Yes.
Okay. If you got your wife pregnant today, right? And tomorrow she woke up. Now, as a matter of fact, let's say it like this. Let's say you got her pregnant, right? And you guys are planning this for a while. And you're happy. You're going to be a daddy. You're finally going to have some children. Maybe have some grandkids. You know, pass on this knowledge and everything to your kids and whatnot. But then the next day she wakes up and says, you know what? I don't care if we've been planning. I'm having an abortion. Tell me something. As a man, how are you going to respond to her?
I would be opposed to that, and that's why I said I think that in the situation of marriage, it's a different issue than just a single mom, you know, out there on her own. Because then she's going to have to face that. But if you're married, you've got a partnership legally. You know, it's like owning a house together or anything. You do have a say in what you do.
And the situation with the single mom, before that girl had sex to get pregnant to begin with, do you think that she understood what it was that she was actually doing and what could potentially happen if she did it?
Well, it depends on the situation. Like I gave an example of a girl that came from an abusive household, and she passed out at a frat party and was impregnated while she was asleep. Now, she had a choice where she could carry this baby, but she would have to drop out of college and go move back in with her father, who'd been raping her since she was 10. This is a girl I was very close with that I knew. Or have an abortion. She chose the abortion. She finished college. Now she's got kids, and she's quite happy.
You're choosing an extreme example. You're choosing an extreme example. Before we even get to rape, let's just talk about the normal.
I'm using people that I know out of my life. This is what's formed my opinion on this.
Both of these girls take their virginity by the time they're 16. Don't you think that these young people should think about what they're doing before they do it, and that they should deal with the consequences if they actually willfully go out there and listen to the lies of their boyfriend about them loving them and all that?
Well, today's society, girls can start having their periods at 9. I mean, you're talking about 9-year-olds too at this point too. The thing I'm saying is there's gray areas. It's not black and white. I'm thinking women should have the ability to decide this issue more than men.
No.
Courts have already decided if you want to make it illegal, then you're going to have to deal with the consequences of that as well. You're going to new class of criminals. You're going to make them murderers. You're going to have to put them in jail for murder.
Well,
I mean, there's a lot of things that what you're talking about. I'd say let's leave it alone and leave that between a woman and her doctor.
I agree with you when you say that there are gray matters, because that's true. Everything isn't as simple as sometimes we make it in these conversations, especially for Christians. But that does not change the fact that if somebody makes a willful decision to have sex, and they know that they can potentially get sexually transmitted diseases, that they can get pregnant, and other things could happen to them. You know what I mean? That they could possibly die. I've heard some people who've had sex and died in the middle of having sex. You know what I mean? If they understand the consequences, why shouldn't they deal with them after they do it? And the majority of these people that's going to these abortion clinics are not older people, are not rape victims. These are young girls that are going to these clinics that do not want to be responsible and want to terminate the pregnancy because they wasn't ready for parenthood. And that is a horrible excuse for giving up your baby, especially when you got adoption programs and things like that, where you got single parents. I'm sorry, not single parents. Where you have parents out there that want kids. You can simply have the child and then give the child to someone who wants to adopt the child. Abortion should be the very, 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 very last option, and under extreme situations.
And I want to address this point that you brought up about like she may not be able to pursue college or whatever. You know, it's really interesting to me that there are pro-choices out there which be like, well, there are women who get abortions because they have goals and careers they want to pursue. But here's the thing, however, pursuing goals and careers require lots of time and effort and are often very expensive. They seem to think women are capable of handling the time and effort behind that and even the cost, but when it comes to pregnancy, it's magically different. And some will go even far as to say abortion is in like a cost-effective range for even low-income women, but don't say anything about the cost of going to school if these women want to do so. So why is it when a woman is seeking an abortion, she's magically able to handle the cost and stress of such, but when she doesn't choose to get an abortion, she's less likely to be able to pursue her careers and goals?
Right.
When it comes it's down to is this a bunch of intellectually dishonest BS.
Right, right. And then you got people, even here on G Plus, that are in their that are in their late teens and in their early 20s that ain't thinking about a relationship. They're not thinking about getting no boyfriend or being married. They're thinking about pursuing their career. That's being intelligent. But if you're going to sit there and open your legs up every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's running around here and whatnot, if every boy that claims he loves you, then you're going to have to deal with the consequences after that. Whether it be STDs, whether it be early parenthood, or whatever. If you're going to have sex, you got to deal with the consequences.
Perhaps, but it's not like somebody shopping for a car and they decide to buy a small car versus large car and they have to deal with consequence. You got to remember that the sex drive is extremely strong. For us to be here, you realize that every person in our lineage going back 1 billion years has reproduced. That's a strong drive. All it takes is one person not to have that urge and we would not be here right now. So the reason we're here is because this drive is so strong. I mean, the sex drive is incredibly strong. I mean, it will make people do things out of their head. It's not like deciding between Coke or Pepsi. Sometimes this is all due to circumstances. It's just a lot more involved than that. And especially with young people make mistakes and stuff like that. And, I just think it should be the woman's issue to do that.
No, I agree with you that the sex drive is very powerful, make people do a lot of weird things and whatnot. However, abortion should be a last tactic. You know what I mean? You can have the baby, and then you can give the baby up for adoption. Now, my position may change a little bit if a person's life is on the line. From a Christian perspective, I would say, well, in that situation, you need to pray to God and ask God what to do in that situation, because I can't really say a whole lot if your life is on the line.
Well, I've investigated that deeply, and when I looked into that very issue, you got people like Surgeon General Everett Koop. Former Surgeon General Everett Koop said in his 36 years of pediatric surgery, he had not known of one instance. In 36 years, he had not known of one instance in which an abortion was needed to save a mother's life. Not one. And even Dr. Alan Guttmacher, the founder of the Guttmacher Institute, a pro-abortion obstetrician, he said that abortion is very unlikely to save a mother's life. So at the very least, you got a pro-choice obstetrician saying at the very least abortion is very unlikely to save a mother's life, to the degree of a Surgeon General, 36 years in pediatric surgery, saying that an abortion, he had not known of one instance to where an abortion saves a mother's life. So this notion about abortion saving a woman's life is just nonsense. There's no factual basis in it whatsoever.
And and like I say, I'm a man, so I don't feel right talking about this as much. I feel it's more of a women's issue, and for any woman out there listening, this is going to sound like, oh yeah, here they go, a group of men putting us down. So, I feel like it's not really my issue. I've tried to say everything I could, the reason why I'm pro-choice, and those are my reasons. And I'm going to check out, and I'll listen to you all from outside. But I do want to mention there's a series, if you get Netflix. Sorry, not to change the subject, because I know you've got a set topic.
That's cool, man.
But for something, if you all have Netflix, there's a series on there called Shaka Zulu. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's really a beautiful series. I love it. If you want,
What?
Have you seen it, G-Man?
No, I have Netflix. But what is it called? Chocolate what?
Shaka Zulu. It's a historical.
Oh, Shaka Zulu. Oh no, I saw that a long time ago, man.
Yeah, I just watched that again, and it was just phenomenal about the because they don't really use actors. They use a lot of the ancestors. These are the real people, the descendants of the real Zulus, and a lot of the scenes and everything are just fantastic. If you like a historical piece too, that was, to me, was just a fascinating historical time period piece, and I just wanted to recommend it to anybody that's listening. Check it out. It's Shaka, and Zulu is Zulu. And it was just phenomenal. I'm going to rewatch it. I would recommend it to anybody who was interested in history. Thank you all very much. I appreciate participating, and you all invite me back anytime. I'll take up the opposition. want me to.
All right, sounds good, man. I mean, despite being the opposing voice, you're a good sport, man. And I appreciate it. You're definitely welcome back here anytime, man.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night, man.
What do you know? We can actually have a conversation and disagree, and nobody's calling each other names. What a concept, right?
Quite a concept indeed, my brother. Amen. I wish we could hear a lot more of this on G Plus, man, instead of this foolishness we've been seeing in relevant circles that will not go mentioned here.
Yeah. And I happened to see some of that earlier, but we'll talk about that later.
Yes, sir.
The abortion issue, yeah. There's a lot of people in our society today that's trying to justify, the killing of babies, or trying to redefine what a baby is so that they can feel better in their conscience to terminate those lives. And it takes a really sick individual to do something like that. Like, how can a woman do something like that unless it was some really extreme situation or whatever? You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Exactly.
So I was in Nadia's room yesterday, and I was talking to Gus. Gus said that he doesn't think it's a good idea for people to say that embryos are not babies. He actually goes along with the idea. He says that the embryos are actually babies, or anything that's under 28 weeks, I think it is, or whatever. That he would, or 28 days, I'm sorry, would be considered a baby. And then I forget the other argumentation that he was using, but he was sitting there. It's like a lot of these other people trying to justify why it's okay for women to have abortions. And I challenged him to a debate. I said, listen, he was trying to argue that women over the age of 30 or something like that were the ones going in to have these abortions and whatnot. I said, that's baloney. Most of the time when you go to those abortion clinics, it's these young girls out there who don't want to be responsible, who ain't ready for parenthood, but didn't think about that before they opened their legs. If somebody doesn't want to be a mama, I'll be blunt with you. Close your legs.
Exactly. It really is that simple. Not to mention the fact that there are ways, that said on having sex, there are birth control methods out there, like a hysterectomy or a vasectomy, things like this. If you're that set on having sex, there are birth control methods out there that will prevent pregnancy from happening that you can pursue, and then have all the sex you want, and then you won't conceive anything. But here's the thing. The problem is you have some people that want to have it both ways. Because I've put this forward to a whole lot of pro-choices, and they'd be like, well, what if they want to have children later on, and blah, blah, blah. So now you want to have it both ways now. You want to be able to get your flings and whatnot, but you want to have the open possibility to kill children at the same time if you're not ready to have them. You want to have them both. Go ahead. What's up?
This is the issue on both sides. You got some Christians out there that actually are pro-choice and think it's okay to terminate a baby's life, and then you got atheists. I mean, then you obviously got the non-believer. That would be anybody that rejects Christ as their savior, who believes that. Now both sides got a problem. Number one, for the Christian, you got to deal with the fact that thou shalt not murder.
That's right.
So the Christians got to deal with that, and then number two, for the non-believer or the atheist or the other religions and whatnot. Let's just take the atheist for example, since most of them watch us here on G+. The atheist got a problem because now they're saying that a woman has the right to do what she wants with her body because it's her body. What about God, who created, me and you, Antonio, and every other that exists? God, then you're arguing indirectly that God can do whatever He wants with His creation.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
And they are false double standard here on the internet all the time. Well, God doesn't have the right to do what He wants with His creation. However, His creation has the right to do what they want with their bodies.
Exactly. That's exactly the point, man. That's right. What's that, man?
I'm eating chicken.
Nice. Yeah, I had some pizza earlier that was, oh man, that's so good. But
I got Chinese tonight.
Cool, man. Cool. But yeah, man, it's all these you do have these people who are believers who they just try to compromise God's word. I just think it's just another one of those positions where they just try to compromise God's word to appeal to the whims of men. They do it with stuff like homosexuality. They do it with stuff like abortion. They just try to have one foot in the kingdom and one foot in the world. You can't have your foot in both places. You can't serve two masters.
And again, if that person would have listened for the Christian, that person would have listened to Jesus Christ and practiced abstinence and actually went out there and found themselves a husband. You know what I mean? Go out there and actually find yourself a husband. Then you can have all the kids you want. Then you'll be able to take care of them. Then you'll be able to have a house and everything and whatnot. You know what I mean? But
Absolutely.
I go out there and break his commandments and whatnot, and then you end up getting pregnant and says, "Well, how to solve this problem? I'm gonna go get an abortion." No,
Exactly. Exactly. It's ridiculous.
Your body after you do that.
Yep. And you brought up the point about being responsible sexually, like with virginity. Here's the thing: I'm 30 years old. I'm still a virgin. And you can be a virgin, and or if you're not a virgin, at the very least, you can be celibate. If you're not ready to have a child this one time, you can do it. It is possible. I gave a suggestion that people, if they're just that bent on having sex, that they can literally like get like a total hysterectomy or get castrated, do whatever you can to prevent conception from happening if you just bent on that much in sexual activity. But if you actually understand how to control your urges, your drive, be celibate.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with being that old and being a virgin. There's a lot of Christians older than you that are born again virgins, you know what I mean, or actually grow virgins or whatever. But bottom line is, from what I hear, usually women enjoy having sex with a person who's never had sex before. Usually after the first or the second time, then they do it with somebody who's experienced, who's been with the whole neighborhood, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? Bored of you, they're gonna get tired of you, but the virgin is gonna be madly in love with you for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? So you can't knock it.
Man, I'm telling you, man, I've met some very, very sick pro-choice people who will find out that I'm a virgin, and they'll find out the basis on why I argue so hard and so uncompromising on my stance, and they would like literally insult me, insult my virginity, and they were like, "You need to get yourself something. That's the reason why you're the way you are, because don't no woman want to like have their time with you. It ain't because."
Like an atheist said that to you.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of nerds telling you that you need to get laid. I mean, think about that a minute now. You got a bunch of nerds telling you that you need to get laid. What they need to do is to be concerned about themselves. You know what I mean? And I'm sure these nerds ain't getting much themselves. You know?
Exactly. And they're trying to shame our virginity. Yeah, there are people out there who do this, who saying it ain't because you chose to be a virgin. It's just because you probably just ain't worth any woman's time and they ain't gave you that.
Don't even, bro, listen, don't even listen to that garbage.
I don't.
I know that you can get a woman whenever the heck you want, so don't even listen to that.
Exactly. If I wanted to like just give a woman like $200, I could get some if I wanted to. All right.
or because most of the time, and a lot of atheists don't know this, a lot of non-believers don't know this, you got Christians turning down women all the time. Because we find out that they're not Christians, they don't share your values and things like that and whatnot. You know what I mean? So you're like, I can't be joined with you. Because number one, I'm going to be obsessed with you if I do join with you, and then me and you don't agree on certain things. So it's going to cause a lot of problems. You know what I mean? A lot of times Christians are turning people down all the time. So
exactly.
Trust me, it's by choice.
Mm-hmm. And they act like they just got to be slaves to the sexual drive, man. And they are so consumed in it that they're like, you know what? I want to get my rocks off. I don't care what y'all say. If we conceive a child at a time we're not ready to have one, we're just going to take it out. We're just going to continue to get our rocks off. That's at the bottom line. The bottom line with all this crap is they'll say it was a women's issue all day, but the crux of it for many people is just that they just want to have an excuse to have as much sex as they want without having to worry about the consequences.
Yep. They'll tell you to go out there and have fun, sleep with everything that walks, but none of them will be around when you contract something.
That's right.
They won't give you one penny when you gotta when you gotta go get tested for HIV and chlamydia and all these other weird STDs that are out there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I just don't understand why people think, like here's the thing. Again, and I'm not telling people not to have sex. People can do what they want to in their private lives. But the problem is they treat sex so much like it's a need. I've even had people say that sex is a literal need. Like even, I'm not even talking about for a married couple in which God has made one flesh. I'm talking about people who are not married at all, who treat sex as if it's a literal need. I've actually heard lots of people say this. Like sex is a literal need, like it's a requirement for them. That they're so strung up in their lust to get their rocks off that they treat it as a need. No, it's not.
Yeah. Sex is supposed to be between two people who love each other and are going to spend the rest of their life with each other. Not for a one night stand where you want to hit it and then move on to the next girl. You know, and that's what they did. They're nullifying all of the things that are supposed to be sacred in this country. I'm sorry, sacred in the world or whatever, just so they can temporarily get their rocks off. And then when their rocks are off and they have their fun, they're looking at the other person that they're with and they're wishing they were somewhere else because now they got to actually talk to the person that they just had sex with. Don't
Exactly.
know nothing.
And I'm telling you, man, before I came to G+, I was consistently a pro-life advocate on Facebook, and they would attack my virginity like relentlessly, man, because I was very open about it. And I've actually had 2 Facebook pages that I'm aware of that were built to demonize me and just attack me. Like 2 whole Facebook pages, imagine that. Because they didn't like the fact that I was a no-nonsense, no-excuse saying, and they was like, well, just because you don't want to get your stuff, so I'm like, yeah, you could control it, but that don't mean everyone else should do it. I didn't say everyone else should do
But
it.
the funny thing is, though, they're teasing you about being a virgin, right? And
Right.
then why they're telling you that they're not a virgin. Honestly and truthfully, out of all the people that we talk to on Google+, do you actually believe everything that come out their mouth? Some of them probably
Of
are.
course not, no.
I wouldn't knock them. I wouldn't put them down because of it. I'd be like, congratulations. You know what I mean?
Well, no, right.
You know? Some people don't want, the funny thing is you'll meet some people who are virgins who don't want a girl. They don't want a guy either. You know what I mean? All they want to do is focus on their career and getting themselves and moving themselves forward. Now, a lot of atheists wouldn't understand that, but Christians, I'm sorry, not Christians. There are people out there who seem to have a gift of singleness. They're just not interested in having sex or having a family or nothing like that.
And I'm not saying I'm necessarily in that boat, but the bottom line is I'm trying to stay consistent in God's commands as much as possible. I'm not saying I ain't never looked at a woman with lust before because, I mean, spiritually, I have committed adultery in my own heart, and there's nothing I can do about that.
You can't commit adultery if you're not married.
Say what?
You can't commit adultery if you're not married, right?
Well, not physically, no, but I was just like looking at it from a spiritual aspect, because like,
Right, I understand.
yeah. But as far as like physically, I can honestly say that I have physically kept that command. So if nothing else, man, that's what I intend to do. I truly believe in a union of one man and one woman that God ordained, and I'm not going to go against what He ordained just because I want to get my rocks off. It's not. Neil, man, what's up?
Hey, I appreciate you, and actually every word that I've just heard is 100% correct. Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, you didn't interrupt. This is cool.
Mr. Anderson, how are you?
Mr. Anderson.
I am the real Neo, trust me. Yeah. I've invited my friend Slip Wilson. He is awesome Christian guy.
Mr. Anderson.
Oh, how you doing, Slip? Good to see you,
Hello.
man.
Hey, good to see you. Nice to meet you. And that is a fake Neo, by the way.
He just killed me. Anyway, I'm still laughing. Go ahead.
But I talked about in one of my videos that, and again, I'm not attacking those who aren't virgins or anything like that, or who are unmarried and who may not be virgins. I'm not doing that. But what I am saying is that virginity is not an easy thing. It really isn't. And celibacy in general is not an easy thing. A lot of people think it's just, you just refuse to have sex. No, it's not that simple, because there is the temptation there all the time, and then there's the societal pressures there as well. It takes some serious mental restraint.
It's like fasting.
Stay in that mind.
It's kind of like fasting. To me,
Yeah.
and I've never done the celibacy thing. I've joined somebody else who asked me to, like pray for him and just kind of support him. And he was being accountable to me. It was kind of cute because I didn't offer it up, but he was like, kind of like, without saying it, he wanted to be accountable to me about that, and just and have me pray for him every morning, just throughout the day, so that he wouldn't fall into the temptation. And he always reported back, it's not that bad. But he also shared with me how hard it was. That's why he asked me to pray for him. So, but fasting, not eating, I do probably about a 48-hour a week deal for fasting, and I don't do it just for mind clearing, spiritual type of reasons that have to do with my faith. It's
of course.
But it's just something that I do, so I know I can do it just in case. But I'm sorry,
again,
I didn't mean to.
Slip is the awesome Christian dude I just met you. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, man. Like,
it's hard.
Yeah, but all these people, man, that just try to use this sick thing that's abortion because they want to get their rocks off. I think that's just one of the most sickening things you could possibly do. One of the most sickening beliefs you can have.
That's why I keep mentioning Slip Wilson as being pretty awesome on here. You see what I mean? It's hard to find genuine, level-headed people on here, and I want other Christians to start possibly helping doing that, and creating a community that's not about debating all the time. You get what I'm not talking about, debating atheists, but debating other Christians. I think it's a bad thing that we're starting to do to each other. If you're gonna, of course, the Bible says, call your brother inside.
Don't touch me there, Neo.
I know, I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying.
Just kidding.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, there are better Christians on here. There's people that we can talk to. G-Man's one of them. G-Man's awesome. And a lot of us need to come back to the community, is what I'm saying. Now that the sniping issue has been fixed, now that all this stuff has gotten better, I think we should really come back strong now. This is the time to.
Agree, man.
Yeah, we don't need to be all judgy McJudgewits with everybody, and then debating things.
I don't want to be a zealot. I don't want to be a zealot either. So yeah.
Well, yeah. No one's asking you to lay down there.
You do got to be careful with that attitude, saying that you don't want to judge nobody, because unfortunately for the Christian, we judge pretty much everything. We just keep
right, and critically, but we have to choose what's important and what's not sometimes, right?
I agree.
Discernment, discernment. Go ahead, G-Man. I'm sorry.
If this is a debatable issue, then yeah, I would say use discernment. We should debate.
But we can also realize that we're running it into the ground, and we're never going to agree on what we're debating. And then do we get personal over it and make it not about what we're talking about and more about just how we acted?
I'm in partial agreement with you when you're saying that we shouldn't debate over debatable issues. But if you got a Christian on here teaching heresy, we have a responsibility.
Sure, absolutely. You got to call a spade, or however you want to.
You're a Christian. Judging others, and are saying that these people are being unchristian or not being Christ followers and whatnot, then we have a responsibility and an obligation to rebuke them to their face.
But then you become more hypocritical.
It's how you do it. I think it's how you do it sometimes.
Okay. So let's say Fiona was in here, right? And Fiona was talking about her Christianity, and how she loved Jesus and whatnot. You know what I mean? How she preaches the gospel and whatnot. And yet we never see her doing. We never see her doing any of this stuff. What we see her do is attack Christians all day long.
Yeah, but what about Matt Bell?
You know what I mean? Come on, I'm not just gonna sit there and be like some amen and amen.
See, it's really hard for me to attack somebody that has vast, great knowledge about the Bible. that then uses that knowledge to attack other Christians with and call them non-Christian. Kind of like the Calvinist point of view, right? You see what I'm saying? It's where somebody says, "I know more than you do," and you're not a Christian because you
But
don't
what's
know
the
what I
point?
know.
Are you trying to help me, or are you trying to break me down? Are you trying to shame me and make me look dumb? And maybe that's the wrong way to say it, though. But I mean, why are you correcting me? Sometimes I have to look at what.
I just
and
don't
they
want to
could-
become a hypocrite.
Be
Is all I'm
right.
saying.
Well,
Yeah.
the person who's saying something to you that that you don't want to hear, and I'm talking from my own perspective. Sometimes the message gets lost because they are right, but it's the delivery.
And by the way, I wanted to mention every time somebody attacks G-Man over that issue, I believe they are totally incorrect because G-Man does speak from the heart. Maybe a lot of people don't hear it. I just wanted to say that as a brother, you know what I'm saying, to G-Man. Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, being around certain people in here, yeah, it does sound like they're trying to embarrass you and make you look like you don't know anything.
Right.
You know, whatever reasons and whatnot. But I don't see how that's bringing glory to God. I don't see how that's
It's not.
elevating the name of Jesus or anything like that. All I see, the only person I see being elevated there is a person trying to make me look stupid.
Amen. Well, I think we could probably take the rest of this discussion off air because I don't think any pro-choicers are going to
Oh,
come
I'm
up
so
in here.
sorry for derailing anything.
No, it's cool. You didn't derail anything. I'm just saying. I mean, we just had to have a conversation about something because ain't no pro-choicers coming in here, obviously. So I'm just gonna end the hangout here. But
Actually, if you want to talk about that, me and Flip were just talking about that before we came in here. Yeah.
talk about what now?
Abortion.
Population control. No, I'm just,
Yeah, population control. There you go. That's the word.
What was y'all talking about?
tell me.
Abortion, a woman's right to choose. Now, me and Slip kind of disagree on this issue.
Probably, probably because I made the point and you repeated it back, and I didn't know if you were being sarcastic or not. But we were talking about a good percentage of when someone chooses to abort a baby is out of convenience. Right?
Yes.
And kind of not a whole lot of other factors.
Yeah. Yeah. The overwhelming majority of them is just women conceives in consensual sex, and she just wants to take the unborn out because she don't want to go through pregnancy. And because
we also mentioned that it was the 1% of time is a very low percent that you would need an abortion. Would you agree that abortion is necessary for 1% of the time or not? Or is it none of the time that abortion is never necessary at all?
If you're talking about just terminating the pregnancy as opposed to deliberately killing the child, then yeah, I would say that termination of the pregnancy is sometimes necessary. But that's not the same as deliberately killing the child.
Right.
That's what a lot of people. Yeah. That's what a lot of pro-aborts mix up. They think it's the same thing. It's not.
Right. Like let's say somebody has a baby that has died, or a infection caused something in the womb, right? That caused to be a
all those circumstances.
Right. There's very few circumstances that this happens, and it's usually 1% of the time.
Well, what about Zika? What about Zika? And I don't know what the end result is there with the harm factor to the baby. I've seen some stuff as far as the small head and a defect. But that that's it's becoming more and more of an issue.
Who is choosing whether this baby dies or lives? That's my biggest problem, is the people that choose to say, yes, you need an abortion, or no, you don't need abortion. It's not whether the fact that abortion is needed or not.
Isn't it up to the mother, though? Isn't it up to the
not really. I mean, they can trick anybody into making an abortion. They could tell you that you have a problem that you don't really need. And I don't think these doctors are lying. That would be a huge conspiracy theory, right? But
what do you mean, like I was selling baby parts?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
I don't mean to laugh about that.
But that is a real thing. I mean, they do sell baby parts on the black market. It's definitely a thing. But it's a black market. It's obviously not on a legal market. We know that.
research is research.
Yeah, it gets so deep into it when you start digging into it. You're like, what is the reason for this person being aborted? You ever heard about that story about that girl who was aborted and she lived? They shot her full of some kind of fluid that was supposed to kill her, and she lived through it.
I think you might be talking about Gianna Jessen.
Yeah, I think that's who I'm talking about. You seen all the stories about this?
Yes, yes, I did.
Yep.
She survived her mother's abortion attempt.
Wow.
And you know what the crazy thing about that is? Her the abortion doctor had to sign her birth certificate.
Wow.
You believe that? I'm not even
You know,
joking.
it sounds like because I work in tech support all day, it sounds like when I try to transfer a customer to, just hear me out. I try to transfer a customer to customer support instead of tech support, and customer support refuses the customer and says, "No, I'm not going to do that." This is the same way that everything works.
Who's their boss?
You see what I'm saying? Like, they deny. They're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to go ahead and abort the baby. We're not going to do anything else now. It's like, listen, I'm trying to tell you that's not the problem. I can fix the problem. You need to fix something on your end before I can fix the problem.
I think that's a fantastic
See
analogy.
what I'm talking about? That kind of
Absolutely.
analogy. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. That's probably
But
one of the
they're
best
not
analogies
listening.
I've ever heard.
They're not listening to the mother. They're not listening to real doctors. They're not listening. It's almost like a doctor who gets paid to do abortions, and all he cares about is the money. He doesn't care whether he fixes the problem or not.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
The emotional problem is the worst part of it. Is the core problem, not the pregnancy itself. Because the overwhelming majority of women who get into that circumstance are just they're typically scared women who just want somebody. They just want to know that somebody's going to be there for them and support them. And if more women had that sort of support system available to them, then I would say that the overwhelming majority of them would not get an abortion. And those who are presented that sort of support and love system, if they just still decide to kill their kid after that, then you cannot blame that on the pregnancy at that point.
We just talked about that, right, Neil? About the emotional effects that it has on the mother that has to.
Go ahead with that, because I can explain it even more after you do. It's like the whole emotional attachment. The whole thing is it's insane.
Well,
like,
that would be a main concern, because I mean, isn't that kind of the root of the problem? Ultimately that lady has the decision over whether she aborts that unborn child or not. So, I would think that if we focused, or whatever support system was there, because obviously we give a lot of money to Planned Parenthood and all the rest of the support systems that are out there for women that have to that do this. So I would think that if we put more emphasis on their emotional stability, their right thinking, and even involve some faithful stuff in there, especially when it comes to a life.
Amen.
I think there has to be a connection there, and again, we're supporting kind of the root of the problem there, because I mean.
And
I can tell you why we're going to be refuted on this. It's because you're a nobody and I'm nobody. Get it? Go ahead.
Here's the thing, man. They want to say that why would us men talk on this issue, but here's the thing. I think men are the backbone of society. I'm not saying that women are not important, but come on, man.
Hold on, let me invite a bunch of my feminist friends. No, I'm just kidding.
But,
my feminist atheist
I could invite a bunch of Black Lives Matter people as well if you want.
I was joking, but Neil and I were just talking about something very similar as well in the other hangout. That's funny.
I'm
you guys are
you
listening.
Met all these people. Slip needed to be exposed to you guys a long time ago. That's all I can say.
I feel blessed. I really do. Wow.
I mean, he's like the guy that you want. He's like the Dawkins deity that is good. He's like the, he's like the guy that you want.
What's your PayPal again? You know?
Right. It's $45 and yeah. Next anyway. But it's like they don't care about people like us, and you know why? Because we don't care about them. Get it? I mean, I care about them, but I don't care enough about them to sit there and make a public image and make a whole YouTube debate channel, the Great Debate, all this. You know what I'm saying? It's not worth it. There's nothing great about the Great Debate. If you want to do that, Antonio, God bless you, because a lot of us are done with these people. There is no Great Debate. It's over.
If that's where you feel God's leading you, man, to do other things, then may He lead you in that direction.
Yeah, I don't think we always have to argue to end up with a really good conclusion about stuff that people are not on the same plane with, or there's a disagreement or a debate. I don't believe it has to. I think it needs to start at a certain level and then go down from there in a productive manner. If it goes up, and I understand there's hiccups in every argument, but if the level of debate goes up and then then it turns into something else, sometimes I just shake my head and go, okay, we didn't achieve anything there, did we?
That's a saying that I learned from an elderly person. He said, relate, don't compare. That has stuck with me for the rest of my life.
Comparison is a horrible thing.
He said, don't compare, relate with people. If you start to relate with people, they'll listen to you. If you compare, they won't. See what I'm saying?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I've been married to the same woman 25 years. Praise the Lord. But she is a comparer. Whatever they have, whatever. Just.
Yeah, but that's all women, feminists, anyway.
Yeah. Fine. I'm just. You brought up the debate versus.
Yeah, but if you're sick, your wife is going to be sicker than you are. That's just a known fact, anyway.
Well, gentlemen, I'm about to just go ahead and take this off air because ain't no pro-choice that's coming in here. But,
no problem. Yeah, I think we've explained the abortion argument like enough now. They don't. If they don't get it, they never will. Right?
Amen. Well, thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see y'all later.